Good morning, everyone. Sounds like the speakers are working just fine, thanks. We have a little competition over there, but I think we'll manage just fine. Hello, my name is Tom Kittle. I'm the chairman of Food Processing Suppliers Association, and it's my pleasure to be able to introduce Aaron Merrell. Aaron, he's Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of KDR Pet Treats, a privately owned manufacturer of meat and vegetable-based treats located in Fresno, California, in the heart of the San Joaquin Valley. Plato Pet Treats was founded in 2006 with the desire to create a product that its co-founders would want to feed their own pets. The company focused on creating a line of treats with healthy, easy-to-understand ingredients that dogs would vigorously respond to every time they saw the bag. Plato has seen double-digit growth every year since 2006, but the pace has dramatically increased over the last few years thanks to the palatability, quality, and relationships with key distributors and retailers that align with Plato's principles. Aaron is here today to share some of the lessons that have helped Plato to achieve its success in increasing production capacity and efficiency to keep up with consistent year-over-year growth over 40 to 50% since 2012. Please join me in welcoming Aaron Merrell.
All right, thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. I'm going to give this one a try. All right, let me see how this works. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. I wanted to thank Tom Kittle for the invitation to be here, and Andy Drennan, who I haven't seen yet. He was a pleasure to work with on my getting ready to come out here. So I really appreciate that. As I walk the show floor today on my way in here, I got to say it's exciting to see the role that technology is playing in the food processing world. I got to tell you, it gives me hope for a brighter future for my industry as well. Technology and the companies that develop it are really directly responsible for the industry that I've made my career in and that I've basically staked my future on. My goal here today is to share some of that, some of the story around our industry, and some of the story of our business, and basically how it was created it was created by, for, and it's an integral component of the human food processing supply chain. I'd also like to share a little history of my company, Plato Pet Treats, and how we fit into the landscape. Then I'll look to give you some perspective on the modern pet food industry and how demographic and cultural shifts are changing the landscape of the whole entire culture in our society and how that affects our industry. This changing landscape is posing challenges to the whole food industry, and there's cultural shifts and demographic shifts that are also contributing to that. I hope to show you how these challenges create opportunities for you as a supplier to the pet food industry and for your customers in the coming decades by taking a fresh look at the supply chain and taking things to the next level through innovation, cooperation, and through service. Before we get started, I'd like to show you a 90-second clip about our company to kind of give you a taste of what we're all about.
I had a new puppy and I wanted to make sure that I was feeding him right, and so I definitely appreciate the need for higher quality product.
All three of us have been in different facets of the pet industry. It was a family company. We started with my father going back to 1979. We first took a look at the industry and realized that it was all about marketing and profitability. They lost track of being able to focus on some of the quality of the product.
Products that were basically byproducts of the food industry, and there was not a lot of thought to nutrition. Plato started up in 2006 and we expanded into this facility in Fresno.
We felt the opportunity to be able to create a treat that was heavily meat-based, a product that dogs would really love.
You can just tell by just opening it. They have a great odor, makes you hungry yourself.
We moved out here to California. It was the benefit of having access to a lot of the proteins and ingredients here in the Central Valley.
We source our organic chicken here in Northern California, our salmon coming out of the Pacific Northwest, duck product coming out of the Northeast. We know where our products are coming from.
It will read the label of any treat you are using now other than this. It doesn't read like ours. Ours are very simple, I think a very, very healthy treat.
I wouldn't care so much about what we were doing if that wasn't how I felt about my own pet. The way that I feed my family and the quality of the food that I put in my own body.
We sleep at night because we understand that the products that we're producing are nutritious, they're safe, and people love to be able to feed them to their dog.
I have a dog that loves all of these products, and what he would say is, give me more.
I titled this presentation, Going to the Dogs, Success Through Service and Collaboration, because the very reason that I'm here able to speak to you is because of the human food industry worked with technology and equipment suppliers since the very beginning to retain and upgrade the value of their secondary and surplus materials, which allowed these companies to be more competitive with their primary products. This had the effect of creating and then expanding the pet food market as a component of the value chain. So I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. What these groups created would become what it is today, a $100 billion global industry that stands out for a lot of different reasons. The pet industry has gone through sustained rapid growth. It's actually poised to further accelerate in the coming years using cutting-edge technology, innovation, and it's also a market that's really well insulated against the economy as a whole. Back in the years of the early 2000s, when the tech bubble was popping, the pet food industry continued to grow. In the years of the late 2000s with the recession and the housing bubble, people were still feeding their pets. They may not be buying new cars and trucks and boats and McMansions, but they are still feeding their doggies. This market should see even greater levels of growth as a result of seismic shifts in demographics and culture in our country and around the globe. To keep up, the food industry as a whole will need to take things full circle and return to our roots through collaboration and technology. Even though pets have been a part of human life going back eons, the modern pet food industry is really a fairly young industry. Before World War II, there were only a few pet foods on the market, and they were really more kind of biscuits and things. But what most people fed their dogs was really their table scraps. What they ate, that was good enough for the dog, and they were lucky to get it. What happened is after the war, Purina was one of the leaders in this. They actually worked with their equipment suppliers. They adapted technology from other types of fields, everything from plastic and grain extrusion, and they figured out ways to add value back to these secondary and excess ingredients that they had as a byproduct of their human food divisions. I have a partner, one of my partners that was on that video, his name is Kent Watts, and he grew up in the family pet store, feed store in Anaheim. They opened this store in 1947 out in the country, well before Disneyland was even a thing. And he's told me stories about how they sold horse meat by the pound. That was the best dog food you could give your dog. And he's given me the whole story about how they grew their business and how the market has changed. But that's really where we've come from as an industry. So basically, this new marketing technology, or this new manufacturing technology, was also accelerated by marketing efforts these big companies started to create marketing efforts around the fact that what you feed yourself is not good enough for your dog. Your dog needs something more. So they started coming out with these Purina products, and they started tying up with marketing phenomenons like Lassie and things to really promote that fact. So the next factor that really accelerated the growth of the pet food industry was the baby boom generation. That's the generation that was born immediately after that war. They were born into a time of unjaded growth, where the American consumer saw everything that was available from American companies as miraculous. They were also born into an era of the Disney effect, the personification of these animal characters. So you've got Mickey and Minnie, and you got Flipper and Lassie, and they're solving problems, and they're smart, and they got character, and they're no longer just an animal that's dumb, that should be left outside, that's a part of, it's just like a farm animal. It started to change the paradigm in the American culture. People started to see animals as actually something a little more special. That factor is really called humanization, and that factor's continued in the generations since then. And what we're seeing now is a trend. Young couples, this is what this says, young couples and empty nesters are increasingly replacing having children with owning pets. I don't know what that says about our society, but it definitely is a good factor for me in the pet food business, and it definitely tells you where people's priorities are. If you look at it from a demographic standpoint, all of the currently living generations, from millennials, Gen X, boomers, and even the seniors, they all consider pet ownership. They consider their pets to be a part of their family. And that's not going away anytime soon. There's also been a massive shift in consumer demands. Consumers are starting to look for more convenient offerings, things that actually kind of go back to what we are used to feeding ourselves. Grain-free, exotic proteins, hypoallergen, and gluten-free. I've had people ask me for vegan dog treats, which is amazing. Convenience packages, single servings, it's all going the way of the way that human food has gone as well. Another massive shift, a big factor in the changing industry is the internet. Obviously, people have become accustomed to instant and constant access to information, access to reviews, ingredients, being able to price shop. So the internet has really disrupted things. You've got retailers like Amazon, which I'm sure you've all heard about ad nauseum. Chewy.com is another big factor in the pet world. They have a fantastic service model, and that combined with the ability to cross-shop and get a good price has really disrupted the market, and the traditional pet retail space has had a hard time adapting to that. I'm still not sure how that's going to settle out. Companies like Jet.com that are owned by Walmart are also dramatically disrupting this industry. Another thing that really has shaken things up in the last couple decades is there's been a loss of trust. That is a result of scandals that have been happening in the last 10 years. In the early 2000s, there was a huge recall in 2006 or 2007. There was a company called Menu Foods that was processing pet food for the majority of the large dog food companies. They were actually buying the ingredients from China to use in their foods. I believe it was either a wheat gluten or a rice gluten protein powder. And the Chinese were adulterating it with chemicals used to make plastic, because they goosed up the COA results on their analyticals to make it look like it was a higher quality product than it really was. Well, the problem with that was that these two chemicals, when combined in the kidney of an animal, created crystals that blocked the kidney from functioning. And I'm not exactly sure how many hundreds of pets died across the country, but it was a substantial PR disaster, and it changed the whole landscape of the pet food industry, and it also changed the landscape in the mind of the American consumer. They no longer just trust what they see on the label. You also have, as a result, you've got companies that are out there claiming the moon and stars about their products, and you have these big titans of industry that make good products, but they're suing each other because they're saying things that are not true. Blue Buffalo is one that you might have seen commercials for where they're claiming how fantastic their ingredients are. Well, the fact of the matter is there's only so much of those ingredients out there in the world, and they'd grown beyond the point where those ingredients would be able to keep up with the demand, and they were continuing to claim it. So Purina sued them and won, and it actually ended up trickling down, and their supplier ended up getting in trouble with that. There's other issues that came up. Recently we've had issues with adulteration where a supplier of a large pet food company was putting phenobarbital laced cattle and horse meat in their beef dog food, things like that. It's really disrupted the trust. So basically, as a result of the rapid growth, high demand, high margins, it's attracted a ton of investment into this industry and created a lot of competition. That's led to some of these cutthroat tactics, but it's also led to some cutting-edge innovation and some really interesting and aggressive marketing campaigns. This product here is a new product coming out by a company called Stella and Chewy. It's a fantastic new food. It's actually a really high-tech product where they take HPP processed raw pet food and they're blending it with kibble, or they're coating it in kibble. It's a fantastic product. Another product out there that's really dominated the market in the last decade or so is a company out of Canada. They're called Origin. They make biologically appropriate pet foods. So they're actually going out. They've got some vertical integration. They contract directly with farmers, and they're buying their own supply of fresh meats and other ingredients, and that's a fantastic product right there. Another Canadian company called Open Farm. They're fast growing. They just got an award for I forget the name of it, but it was the Social Responsibility and Transparency Award. They create all of their products using ethically sourced from farm to bowl grain-free recipes. They are made with 100% certified humane meats, ocean-wise recommended wild-caught fish, and locally grown non-GMO fruits and veggies. So we're not talking about the dog food of yesteryear here. This is what they're showing goes into their food. That might be a little bit disingenuous, but in any case, another fantastic brand is called Honest Kitchen. They make a human-grade, freeze-dried, dehydrated pet food that you would rehydrate and feed to your dog. And 100% of their ingredients are human grade, and their facility is human grade certified. Some other factors that have come in, all of this marketing and money and investment has also attracted celebrity investors in pet food companies. So you've got Rachel Ray. I'm not sure if she's a partner in that company, but she joined up with a company called Ainsworth Pet Foods, and within 2 years from starting, they launched this food in Target and went from $0 to $100 million in sales in 1 year. Well, in 2 years. And they grew, they've been growing dramatically since then. So you can see that this is really resonating with the public. Ellen DeGeneres is another one. She's actually a co-owner and a partner in Halo. And that allows her to basically contribute her value to that company by promoting it. And what she says here, I believe in treating your pets like you treat yourself. That's really the essence of what this is all about. Another company that makes a really great pet food is called Nulo, and they just partnered up with one of the highest paid Olympic athletes in history. I guess he made $55 million in endorsements last year, so you can see that he's a very valuable spokesperson. He bought into this company because he likes what they're doing, and he's out there now promoting Nulo pet food with his star power. That's pretty substantial. On the marketing side of things, there's a company called BarkBox. We do business with them, and they're fantastic. They have several 100,000 subscribers across the country that are so crazy about their dog that they're willing to pay $30 to $50 a month to get a surprise box in the mail full of treats and toys for their dog every single month. It's a great business. People love it. It's exciting. It's something fun to share with your dog, and it's actually a great way for smaller brands to get their product noticed. So it's a good business model for them. So backing up, I'll tell you a little bit about our story. The partner that I mentioned earlier, Kent, that had the feed store. He and the two other partners, Bob and Dana Montgomery, they started a business in the early 90s. They basically cornered the market on the pig ear as a dog treat. It really hadn't been made commercially available until then. They worked together and grew that company. And all the while, I've been working for the two brothers, Bob and Dana, in their meat processing facility in Fresno. They had several plants across the country, but I worked for them out of the Fresno plant since I was 16 years old. I started out basically stacking cardboard, washing bins, and shoveling chicken. And so I worked my way up through the process and paid my way through school. And during that time, my partners sold this business to a large multinational company, and they had a non-compete agreement, and that expired right when I was finishing up with business school. So they were talking about starting up another treat company, and I was a cocky 25-year-old, soon-to-be business school grad. So I chimed in and had some ideas. I wrote a business proposal, and I turned it in for credit at school, and I got a good grade. So once I had that blessing from my teacher, I sent that to these guys and said, hey, I'd like to get involved with you and help you start up a company. And so I had kind of a Shark Tank moment. I drove down to Southern California and met with my now partners, and I laid out the business plan for them that I thought that we could take advantage of our access and our knowledge and our expertise in the meat industry and move away from the commodity-based parts and pieces and start moving to more of a value-added process using our meat. And so we actually worked together with some suppliers. Some of them are actually here at this show. I camped out at one of their operations and spent a week or so learning how to run the equipment, how it was made, and we pulled together a product line and basically assembled a production facility. Today, our facility is in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley in Central California, which is the largest agricultural area in the country. It's the sixth largest economy in the world, in California, if you look at it as its own nation, so to speak. And over the years, we've developed dozens of high-quality premium dog treats. So this is just a quick overview of our product line to give you an idea of what we're all about. We've got our original line here. This is our original organic chicken, salmon, and our natural duck treats. These are very popular, very palatable. This is our most popular product line here. This is our Thinkers meat sticks. They're very similar. They resemble a meat stick that you might find at a convenience store or something like that, only they're a lot healthier. I have samples of them here in the back. If any of you have doggies that you'd like to take some back, if you trust me enough to feed it to your pet, and you're welcome to take as much as you like. We also have our grain-free turkey products. We've got turkey with pumpkin, turkey with sweet potato, and turkey with cranberry. These products are grain-free and they feed really well. They're good for the dog's stomach if they have any digestion issues, and they're phenomenal. They do really well right about this time of year through the end of the year, believe it or not. Another product line that we launched is our Small Bites. These are our soft, moist, grain-free training treats, and those are made with duck, organic chicken, and salmon, and they do very well. A new one that we launched, this is one product that we don't actually manufacture ourselves. I'm heading over next week to Iceland to go visit our supplier. We buy a Icelandic cod skin directly from the source, so they're actually a forklift drive away across the parking lot, essentially, from the largest fishing company in Iceland. And we're taking that product, and they're using geothermal energy to process this product, and it makes a phenomenal treat. We've also got wild Alaskan salmon oil. I don't know if any of you take this as a supplement, but it's good for your brain health. For a dog, it's good for their skin and coat, and it adds palatability to their food. And lastly, this is our new small batch bone broth. I don't know if you've heard about bone broth in the human side of things, but it's it's really catching on. And it's a great way to give your dog extra vitamins, collagen, and some other benefits, and add it to their food. It's good for rehydrating their freeze-dried food too, since that's so popular these days. We've got lamb, beef, and pork, and I'll tell you, it's human grade and it's delicious. So how we've kept up with all of this stuff, all this change, is, we've really worked to stay true to our mission. We've grown dramatically over the years, as Tom said in the introduction. We've actually, the industry as a whole has been growing, but we've grown even faster than that. And one of the ways that we've worked to stay ahead of the curve is through our third-party certification. We're working to stay ahead of FSMA. We're in the process of getting an SQF Level 3 certification. We're organic certified. We're EU certified ad nauseum. And that's one of the ways that we're working to stay ahead, because as a small company, without having that third-party influence, you wouldn't know what to do, because there's no roadmap. Some other factors that are coming into play here in the future, in the next 3 decades at least. The millennial wave is a huge demographic. You've probably heard more about it than you care to at this point, but it's the largest demographic in American history, 32% of the population. It's the third generation, so we're talking exponential levels of Disney effect on the culture. They've got a new worldview. They're entitled to instant gratification, instant and complete access to all information. And because they are jaded, they don't trust every company to do what they say they do. They want transparency, and they want to be sure that what they're spending their hard-earned money on to give to their dog is not only ecologically or environmentally friendly, it also needs to be socially responsible. They want to make sure that you're treating the animals humanely, that everything is processed really well. And as a result, though, they're actually willing to pay more to get those things in their products. They have those high expectations, but they understand it's going to cost. And so you can see, since 2011, pet food has increased in price per pound by 40%. Treats, 67%, thankfully. And that's a result of consumers that are really looking to pay more to get better. The millennial factor is also, one of the other things about it is that millennials see pet ownership as kind of like a dry run or a practice run for having children. They treat their dogs the same way they would if they had a baby. They're shopping for the same types of product like they would for their children, which is organic, BPA-free toys, humane training tools, you name it. Baby boomers, believe it or not, are the next fastest generation that's adopting these same habits and these same preferences. They're the second largest demographic in population, but they have 70% of the disposable income. So their shopping patterns are lining right up with what millennials are going after, but they have the money to pay for it, which is fantastic. They are also a lot, generally speaking, they're higher educated, and they're actually adopting the internet as well. So they're just as in tune with what's going on in the market. Some other factors that are coming up, there's some beliefs that the post-millennial, the next wave of demographics, is going to be even larger. We have yet to see that, but that could be a big factor. And another factor that is already happening is that Hispanic American families are owning pets at a higher and higher rate these days. They're quickly adopting it, and they're one of the fastest growing segments of our culture. So that bodes well for the pet food industry. On top of that, the global pet food industry as a whole is mirroring these trends. It's a little bit behind, but they're still catching up. $100 billion industry worldwide. Pop culture is really like holding up a mirror to what the people are all about. And so you see in movies, you see this reflected. Case in point, Americans spent 7 times more money on their pets than they did at the box office. And they spent $29 billion more on their pets than they did for daycare. So that's actually pretty impressive. So the last time I spoke, I talked about a movie that I was just so caught off guard by. It was a movie named John Wick, and this guy was a former criminal, and he was brought back into the game, brought back into go get revenge on all the bad guys because of the fact that they killed his dog. And that was actually considered justification that people could get fired up about, yeah, go get him, right? Well, they've even done a second one now. He's got a partner now in the next movie, which is a little pit bull there, that's helping him fight the bad guys. And there's even other movies. Tom Hardy's rescuing pit bulls and all of that. This is really not causational, but it's definitely correlational to what's going on in our society as a whole. You know, pop culture, like I said, it's the mirror to what's going on in our society, and they're really wanting to associate their own brands, their own image with pet ownership because it resonates with us. Everybody from Angelina Jolie, the Queen of England, that's an old picture, but Cindy Crawford, you name it. Leonardo DiCaprio, George Clooney, Hugh Jackman, Brad Pitt, this strange-looking guy, Adam Sandler, even Mike Tyson is getting in on the pet game. Pets are also a big part of our society. You know, now you're starting to see more pet-friendly hotels, pet-friendly restaurants, pet-friendly workplaces. Our office is a pet-friendly workplace. Pet spas. For when you go out on vacation, you put your doggy in a spa. Pet medical clinics with MRIs, and now they're even working on doggy-compatible automobile design, believe it or not. You got everything from doggy weddings, doggy costumes. I get a kick out of that, the Chiquita Banana Girls show. But then you also have the more admirable side of things too, with therapy dogs for children with cancer, and et cetera, et cetera. One of the programs that I'm really proud that we participated in was a program called Shelter to Soldier, where we sponsored this dog. His name was Plato. We didn't name him, the trainer did, but Plato was a dog that was trained through an 18-month dog for this veteran here who had post-traumatic stress disorder. And we're very proud of the fact that we were able to contribute with that. Pets are really a part of our family, and that's really my point. They're not going away. If anything, it's getting stronger. And in some cases, it's really clear to see what people's priorities are. You got a leash on the kid and no leash on the dog. I don't understand that one. So the challenge is going forward. All these new demands from consumers, they're asking for cutting-edge technology and raw pet food and this and that. It's creating a lot of challenges for the industry to keep up. There's a higher demand for premium ingredients that are clean, that are well-processed, that it's basically a big change in the paradigm. You also have food safety issues. You know, you don't want to be feeding your dog something that might get your little child sick or get you sick after you handle it. And that's creating a lot of challenges for an industry that's really not thought of pet food that way in the past. They've actually really, in the past, thought about pet food as kind of a waste stream for their business, not really as a second market for their products. But you got high technology here. You got high HPP processing, ultraviolet sterilization. You got some of the stuff I don't even know what it is. Freeze-dried material is very fast growing, and it's now becoming very affordable. So there's a lot of competition for these ingredients, and there's not a lot of supply. As a manufacturer, I get inundated with calls and emails and cold calls from companies that are looking to supply me with pet food ingredients. But the problem that I'm running into is that the majority of these companies are still thinking in the old way about what pet food ingredients are. And the quality of the material that they're selling is nothing that our consumers are asking for. So we have to work with suppliers that can supply us the quality ingredients, that can supply us the information and the transparency so that we can convey that to our customers. And then another factor here that's actually pretty dramatic is the fact that more and more people are getting smaller and smaller pets. So they're feeding their pets better, but they're feeding them less. So the market as a whole is going to need to start thinking about how they can shift away from the old model of rail cars and truckloads, which we still hope to sell, but the volume is going to be going down as a whole, or stabilizing at the very best. But the quality and the dollar value of this materials is going to go up, as you can see there by the growth of this segment. So the big opportunities here is really a paradigm shift. That's what we need as an industry. What I would hope to see is that the food industry would start to see the pet food industry as an extension of their core business, instead of thinking of it like a waste stream. An example of this is a brand that Purdue Farms launched in the last couple of years called Spot Farms. This is a fantastic product. They have full transparency. The bags here show where the product was grown, where those chickens were harvested. They really get it, and it's a fully integrated process for them. So they're able to sell their products instead of just selling them out the back door. They're selling them out the front for a premium. Another big one is Tyson. I'm sure you've probably heard of Tyson. They launched their own treat company, I think about 5 years ago, to do the same thing. And you can see they're talking about natural ingredients, USA made, no animal byproducts, no artificial flavors. The big guys are taking notice of the way things are going. So really, we need to start looking at it instead of looking at it like every problem is a nail because the only tool you have is a hammer. We need to start looking at this as the opportunity that it is. The demographic waves are going that way. Consumer demands are going that direction, and there's plenty of opportunity here if we cooperate together to take advantage of it. Food processing suppliers like you are uniquely positioned to service both the human and the pet food markets at the same time, by following the same recipe that got us here from the first place, by collaborating with human food processors to find new and better ways to retain and upgrade more value in secondary ingredients, and by thinking about them less as secondary and more integral to the whole. It's my hope that equipment and technology suppliers will capitalize on this opportunity to solve food safety and practical concerns that producing these high-quality, limited ingredient foods, cutting-edge products, poses to companies like mine. These products are, by their very nature, harder to make. You have a lot fewer options to make them shelf-stable. You can't throw as much at it to fix it, so you have to be careful. And you need the quality to be there from the start because you don't have as many tools in your toolbox. And they're also much more expensive, so if you get it wrong, it's costly. And that's why it's important for new ideas from our equipment suppliers and ingredient suppliers ad nauseum. That's the only way that we're going to be able to keep up with the demands of today's pet parents. A lot of these challenges can and will be met. Somebody's going to do it. They're going to be met through innovative technological solutions. But the most successful companies, I believe, that are going to flourish are going to be the ones that marry constant cooperation, service, and support, and they think about our product in the right way. I wouldn't be here today, literally or figuratively, if it weren't for suppliers that we've worked with along the way. They partner with us, they provide services and solutions that have allowed us to succeed. I'm also grateful, thank you, I really appreciate you coming out to hear me. It means a lot to me. And it means a lot to me that companies like yours care about our industry and would take the time to come listen to me here. I believe that that's really the essence of what it's going to take to fix this. Is you have to, or to meet this demand, is you have to appreciate the opportunity here. There's a lot of opportunity, and the companies like you that are going to recognize this are going to be the ones that succeed. So I want to thank you for your time.